You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.
Welcome to Above the Garage, a Nick and June, the Handmaid's Tale podcast. Hi, friends. Welcome to our analysis of The Handmaid's Tale, Season 3, Episode 6, which is entitled Household. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Marigold.
Hey, I'm Violet.
Hi, I'm Helen.
Hi, I'm Claudia.
And I'm Kate. So this episode opens with yet another cool aerial shot of a circle. This time it's the Marthas praying. And June's voiceover says, I see them every day now. They've heard the Waterfords' plea. They're praying for Nicole. Blessed and eternal God, please return this child to Gilead, to her loving home. And this is all I know about my baby. If they're praying, then she's still safe. If they're praying, she's still beyond their reach, even just. I have my own prayers. I pray that their prayers go unanswered, and I pray for Serena. May she find her way back. May she see past her broken heart and remember Nicole is better off where she is. May she convince Fred to let things lie. Or may they both get hit by a fucking truck. I'm honestly down for either. I enjoy that voiceover. Back at the Lawrences, June is sorting the kitchen, and Lawrence asks, aren't there Marthas for that? And she points out she's just making herself useful, sir. And then he tells her that she needs to go pack because Waterford wants to use her to talk to the Canadians to repatriate his daughter. And June reacts strongly to that. Don't call her that. Please don't call her that. And he seems to listen, but he continues telling her that Fred set up a week of public prayer in DC. He even calls it a good idea, but I do think he feels bad for June already. June asks if Serena will be there, hopeful she can get through to her, I think. And Lawrence responds, whither thou goest, trains at 4. Do you guys think Lawrence felt bad for her?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I also just like how we get to see, like we've talked about this before, but just the way that June still has this like hope that Serena is gonna see things better and come around and have some kind of empathy inside her that's like just deeply buried and very, very deeply buried. I also like in the opening, like in the or they could get hit by a fucking truck, like it's just showing that she can have those two thoughts at the same time, like can have the like wish for compassion for her or like empathy towards her, but then also kind of hate her at the same time. Like I just like that. Because that's how people feel. I mean, a lot of people feel that way all the time. Like you feel two conflicting things at the same time. So I like that.
I also liked how June said that she was trying to be useful. It was kind of like a callback to 303. Yeah, the episode Useful, when Lawrence was like, women can be useful. She was kind of throwing that back in his face, which I enjoyed.
I bet she drops that line a lot in that house.
Oh, yeah. And I also thought it was interesting that June, like when Lawrence was like, oh, the Waterfords are borrowing you, like she didn't like object, but as soon as Lawrence called Nicole his daughter, then she was like, don't call it that.
Yeah.
No, I do wonder if Lawrence picked up on that she said, don't call her that. Like if he connected what he'd seen in the scene that you mentioned, Marigold, that women can be useful, when he clocked on June and Nick. If he connected this sentence from June to that.
Right, because he instantly clocked their relationship. So probably he seems pretty observant.
Yeah, he's clever. I think he would have known what she was doing.
I kind of love that she was doing stuff like a bit like a Martha, because in the Waterford's household, she was always bored to death and they never allowed her to do anything. And with Lawrence, she finally has at least the bit of freedom that she can do whatever she wants.
Right, walk around the house.
Even if it's just some chores for the house.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, yeah. Like living the life of a handmaid, I'd be dying for the chores that I currently hate.
I think it also just makes them all feel like a team, like her with the Marthas, you know, like they feel more like friends that work together.
Yeah.
which is obviously why they don't want them to cross jobs.
Right.
Because they don't want that to happen. But it's just nice in Lawrence's.
I don't think Rita wanted her help either, so it is nice.
No, that's true.
I do love Rita. I'm glad she's in this episode. It's nice to see them together again.
Yeah.
All right, so then June's on a very red train, and with Lydia's snoring beside her. She's like and June's rolling her eyes at that. And as she looks out the window at DC, the Washington Monument has been turned into a cross, and it all just looks pretty like depressing and brown. And then we're off the train and we're going up some subway escalators, and Lydia's raving about how magnificent the train station is. And June said the old one was beautiful. So I guess this national station used to be Union Station. Lydia said the old one was designed by a heretic and destroyed for the glory of Gilead. So shout out to Daniel Burnham and Ernest Graham, who designed that. If Gilead hates you, you must be cool. And then Lydia says, I'm pumped, which was weird. They used to say that. And June responds sarcastically, oh yeah, I'm pumped, Aunt Lydia. She calls her a sourpuss. She really is. Aunt Lydia's really excited about this trip. And that changes later in the episode, it seems. But then June notices the handmaids in DC have their mouths covered, like as Lydia is saying, wonderful, the devotion. So she's talking about that when she says it? Is she talking about, what a bitch.
I think so.
She just doesn't know that it's like permanent, basically.
Right.
Yeah, she doesn't know,
And then when they get to the top, Lydia tells her she'll see her tomorrow, which is super weird. And June's like, what? And she's like, oh, go to your spot. And she's like, what the fuck does that mean? And Lydia just tells her they don't stand for disorder, not in the capital, and pushes her away. So as June walks towards her literal spot, we see guardians everywhere. And it's just kind of like a generally scary vibe in DC so far.
Yeah.
And her spot is a literal red spot underneath the escalators where handmaids are already kneeling, and they throw a pillow down for June. Blessed are the silent, for only they will hear the voice of the Lord. Head down, please.
I kind of wouldn't mind having a spot though, like a designated area to go, like in a train station, like go to the green circle or whatever. Like, I don't know, just like that, make it easier. It's like when you go to a convention, sometimes they'll put like colored tape on the floor to show you where to go, and it's great.
I love that was your thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't disagree with you.
Easy to find. You could just be like, meet me at the blue spot or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
If it only were the spot, though, then it would have been nice. But without everything that comes with it.
Oh yeah, the entire thing was creepy as fuck. Like the entire like DC vibe, and like it was like my main note on that section was just that like even us as viewers watching it, I feel like we got the same impact as June. Like, oh crap, like the world is like things are happening like crazy in other places. Like it's really escalated a lot.
Right.
And they're so sheltered. Yeah, they're so sheltered in their like bubble of their community. Again, probably intentionally, that like no one really knows what's going on except the commanders. So then they get this glimpse of like, whoa, the world has like really changed in a horrible way, in a horrifying way. So, I mean, I felt that like watching it the first time.
Yeah, especially like DC is the, symbol of like freedom in America.
Right. And so completely reversed.
Yeah. That huge crucifix was like, whoa, like, the Washington Monument. I was like, I like how the show, like, I guess we've only really seen it with like Fenway in the past, but like, I like when they like have like real places because
they use landmarks.
Yeah, feels more real.
It does.
That's true. I mean, I guess the thing with keeping them in the dark is like the theme for Gilead too, because that's how they managed the takeover.
True. Yeah.
All the sons of Jacob like got it done before anyone could really say anything.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird though, like that the spot was under like two escalators. Like it was just such
it was weird.
Place.
I was actually surprised that they gave her a pillow. I'm like, oh, they actually care about their comfort. Like,
it felt like she was like an object being parked there. Like, you're gonna get picked up there.
Yeah,
I don't know.
She was. Fred came and said, "She's ours."
I hated that.
Yeah. It's like
literally.
Okay. And I just wanted to say that it didn't really came across to me that not even the handmaids had the cover, but the Marthas as well when they
I
were
saw that
outside.
too. Yeah.
Oh, why didn't I notice that?
We know they don't have the mouth rings,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but they definitely had like a scarf. It wasn't like as tight as
Mhm.
for the
Uh-huh.
handmaid, but they were like should be silent too. It seems
Mhm.
only the wives and the commanders and the aunts were, and the guardians, of course, all the men and the wife.
But I've noticed that the wives had like a covering of the eyes. I don't know how you call it.
A veil,
Like a kind of
Veil.
mesh,
Oh,
a
yeah.
veil, yeah.
yeah,
So
sure, yeah.
the handmaids shouldn't speak, but metaphorically the wives shouldn't see everything that's happening. That's what I thought.
In the next episode, they call this thing a veil, I think. I just
Uh-huh.
watched like a
Yeah.
few minutes of it when I was trying to be ambitious and watch everything. So it's weird.
I also looked up the verse that the aunt says to them, "Blessed are the silent, for only they will hear the voice of the Lord,"
Mhm.
and that is not in the Bible. They made that
No?
up. No, I was like, I've never
Ah.
heard that verse before. Like,
Oh, I'm glad you looked it up. That sounds like them.
yeah, I was like, is that in the Bible? I don't know.
But would that also mean that the commanders and the wives won't hear
I know. I wrote that
the voice of
too.
God?
Yeah.
Or the word of God?
I think
Yeah,
that might be
they
the
need to be
case.
silent too.
Yeah, so then Fred walks up, or then you hear Fred's voice, and she says, "There you are, she's ours," in reference to June. And when she stands, Fred says, "All together again, isn't this nice?" And she looks straight at Serena. It says, under his eye, "I hope you're well." And I believe the meaning was like, "You fucking bitch." And then
Yep.
Rita's there too, and she walks with June. She even tells June she misses her, which is very nice for Rita. And on the escalator, June whispers to Rita that like she can't want this, and Rita says she misses her, and the baby is the only thing she ever wanted, which is bullshit. She wanted power, and she consistently wanted to torture June more than she cared about the baby's health. So I do not accept that reasoning.
Yeah, it kind of like upsets me sometimes when Rita seems to like,
Yeah.
I guess, be on Serena's side, kind of. But I feel like
Yeah.
it's like a Stockholm syndrome thing for Rita and Serena, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, June is right when she's saying we all do. Everybody misses the baby that has had some form of relation to her, but nobody's calling her back except from
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mrs. Waterford.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear Fred's attempt at joking? Oh my god. And we were off like a herd of dusty turtles.
Yeah, it was really dumb.
Okay, my grandpa kind of used to say that. Not that exact
Really?
phrase, not the
Oh.
dusty part, but he used to say we're off like a herd of turtles. Yeah.
I wondered why he said dusty turtles though.
Yeah, the dusty part was weird.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Why? It was really weird.
I love that Serena noticed how angry June was at her, that the greeting was like a fuck you.
Yeah.
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 What did she expect?
I noticed that when Rita and June talked, the "I miss you" and "you too," they notice a guard and immediately stop talking because it's like they are probably even allowed to talk with each other because Martha and Handmaid and not, and they should be silent, right? And then they when they go on the escalators, I noticed that there's a different escalator for men, right?
I
Yeah.
didn't notice. That makes
That's
sense.
Yep.
that's really freaky because it's like all the women, even the wives, all the women are on one and the men
Yep.
go to
Yeah.
another.
It shows that like women are even like the wives are even more oppressed
Exactly.
in DC than like in other areas, because normally it'd probably be like the handmaids and the Marthas on one side and the wives and the commanders. So that's interesting.
Then they arrive at the Winslow's house in the snow, and Serena says she wishes that they'd stayed in the hotel, and Fred says this is an opportunity, and Serena looks at him like disbelievingly upset, I guess, that he's caring about his power more than the baby. So Fred says it's an opportunity for all of us, for Nicole. And then inside the Winslow's house we see, is this the first pet we've seen in Gilead?
I was literally going to make a comment about that because Mrs. McKenzie mentions an episode 301 about getting the golden doodle for Hannah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, are there vets in Gilead, or do they just like not care enough to like take care of them, or who's taking care of the animals? Like, I guess the Marthas probably.
They're making hybrid dogs, so
They have a lot of dogs, but you never see them except at one time with Emily.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
that a German Shepherd though.
But that was also a German
Yeah.
Shepherd.
I was gonna say.
That's the kind of dogs they have.
Yeah.
That one seems more like a pet, not like a
Yeah.
security dog. So
Yeah, he was a nice German Shepherd, but you don't see little like fluffy dogs.
No.
Right. They must be getting them from somewhere because they mention it casually in the first episode of the season. So like, are there dog breeders in Gilead?
Yeah.
Like, or maybe they're so rich that they just import them from somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Winslows have 2 birds. And I love the like look Serena's giving the birds. Like, what the fuck? It's pretty funny. They're standing around awkwardly in this room. And then Winslow comes in and apologizes for being stuck on conference calls. The men seem thrilled to meet each other. And when they sit, Winslow just points out that they have to be judicious about the images they send out to the world. And then a girl runs in abruptly to say goodnight, and Winslow picks her up like lovingly. And then a whole busload of kids run in after her. It is fairly stunning, like that scene.
My whole comment on this was just like, what a fun household of kidnapped children.
Yeah, right?
Oh my god.
Yeah, so they have like 6 kids. And Serena looks truly joyful for once and asks if they're all Mrs. Winslow's. She's
no,
like,
no, they're not.
I know, right? None of them. And then Rita and June leave the room. And I love that I had my captions on. I love that it says ghoulish music plays as they like look into the room at the family playing ghoulish music. And they head upstairs, and Rita asks if she's ever seen that many before. The most she's ever seen in one house was 3. They had like 5. Rita is not very good at counting. They had 6. I thought I must have been wrong, but then they showed the portrait, the family portrait.
I had the exact same thought.
And then the Martha tells June that she's going to room off George, and June asks how they have a handmaid. Why did she ask that? Like, Mrs. Winslow.
Because they have a baby.
They have
already
6 kids and a baby.
You think they would just stop?
I mean, at least they. In when we see the Putnams and the Waterfords, and it's like they get the baby, and then they have to wait a bit for the next handmaid because until the baby is a bit bigger, and that baby is small still. So I guess it's like, what the fuck?
Right. I mean,
nonstop kids.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's because of his rank, and maybe just things in DC are different.
Also, when June was watching Serena through that like weird gate that like they closed in front of the door where the kids were playing, she has this like look at her. Like, I feel like June is taking in the fact that here Serena is interacting with these kids, and clearly that's going to make the situation worse because because she's literally like getting a taste of what she wants and misses, and it's going to make it easier for her to take the kid back from Canada.
Yeah,
especially that Mrs. Winslow handed her the baby too.
Yeah.
I was like, of course, like this is going to make her want Nicole even more. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I even wondered for a second, like, is this a setup? Like, did they put her in this house intentionally? But that doesn't really make any sense. But it's still just the worst possible house for her to be in while she's longing for her baby, and not her baby, but longing for June's baby.
Yeah, she knows that she just lost her, like, completely, because she was still going back and forth, Serena. But that was like, And did you notice that the first girl that came in was similar to Hannah? And June was like,
yes, I noticed that too.
Focusing on her so hard the whole time. She does it later too, but this moment really stuck out to me.
Serena's unpacking when Fred comes in to check on her and remarks on how many children they have. There's no news from the Canadians yet. They could ask a neutral party to intervene. They're going to release pictures tomorrow, and Fred says it'll generate pressure, and somehow this is his area of expertise. Don't know when that happened, but he gives her wedding ring back just so everything looks right. And then when he leaves, Serena unfolds a paper with Nicole's footprints on it.
The way that whole scene is shot is so cool. Like, they shoot like so much headroom above Fred. Did you guys notice that? Like it looks like he's really, really tiny because there's all this space like above his head. And then when it cuts to Serena, it's like from below kind of. So it makes her look like she's like bigger than him. I don't know how to explain it exactly. And then when they cut to the shot where she's in the mirror, like she's still like slightly above him. It's really interesting. I don't know if it was intentional, but as he moves to the mirror, it kind of changes and then it's not a thing anymore. But I just really liked that. I liked the way it looked.
Then in June's room, June tries to talk to George, who's not responding no matter what June says, but she keeps talking. And then finally she sees George has taken the red cloth off her mouth and revealed that underneath that her mouth has been bound closed by 3 rings. And June looks like she's going to vomit, and she apologizes. And that's how I felt too the first time I saw it. I felt like I was going to vomit too. And they must be able to take them out to eat, right? So she could take them out.
I guess so,
at night.
Or do they eat only with fluids? But
that's what I was wondering too.
How do they brush the teeth?
Yeah, you have to take them out, I think.
I think I remember an interview. I don't know if it was the costume designer or Bruce Miller, but one of them said that the rings are like earrings. You can open them and take them out. So so you can eat and wash yourself and whatever. So they're removable, but they have them on during the day so that they don't speak.
So I'm surprised she wouldn't be very excited to talk to someone and take them out. But obviously the scene works very well and further shocking us.
Maybe she's just so used to it.
Yeah.
And I also wondered, they had 2 Handmaid beds in their room. So I was wondering, do they sometimes have 2?
That's a good question.
Unless they just moved a bed in there for June, maybe, like knowing they were coming.
I mean, he's obviously very fertile, so he should be the fucking cow. So maybe.
Well, I don't think the other kids are from him, so that's the one.
Some of them probably, but not all.
Kidnapped from women at the beginning.
No, because the age.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about the youngest, apart from the baby, because I don't know how far we are in yet. But I think it's like 4 or 5 years, 4 years. So he doesn't look like 4, but a bit older. So I don't think it's
maybe like 2 of them are theirs or something.
I wanted to tell that June makes baby footprints on the window. Did you catch that?
I was just about to say that.
Serena was looking at the baby footprints on the sheet, and she was like doing them on the glass like we did when we were kids.
I didn't see that.
I loved how they showed it through the window too, because it was like, it kind of like seemed symbolic to me of Serena looking at the footprint thinking about wanting her back, and June making the footprint in the reverse thinking about wanting her to stay in Canada. Like they're both thinking about her, but in completely different ways.
Yeah,
I like that. I also like that even Lydia is horrified the next day at the photo shoot when she glimpses the rings for the first time. I don't know how she hadn't heard about these yet. But yeah, DC is now the worst place on earth. Fred seems to really be enjoying himself setting up the shot. Perhaps he should have been a photographer. And
didn't he work in marketing before?
I guess that's why he's saying I know all this. This is trust me,
I don't know.
The expert.
I just don't remember. I heard. I don't know if it was in the show or an interview, but
he seems like, I guess, a salesman-y type.
Yeah, that fits Fred, right? Like a salesman, and someone who really believes that they have the skills, so they act like they know everything.
Right.
Yeah,
that fits.
No offense to any kind of salesman though. I didn't want to generalize. Sorry.
No, just the bad kinds, not the good salesman. And June's mad at Serena, asks how many videos he's going to do, and she says as many as it takes. She has no regrets. And then Nick walks in, and June's angry face immediately dissolves into like hardly disguised delight.
Hard eyes.
Yeah.
She's smizing. She's still like smiling.
Yes. Her eyes, like, it's great.
And Nick says, "Looks beautiful, sir." And he's looking right at June, and he's talking about June, I think.
Totally.
And Fred is not as delighted, but he says, "What a nice surprise." And Nick said he called on the Winslows and they sent him over. Was Nick going like just to try to see June at the Winslows?
Yes.
That was my question. Did he like?
Yes.
Obviously, he must have heard about Gilead trying to get Nicole back. So You think he came directly to DC in order to find?
DC, like, to deport. I think that's train
Right.
from DC to wherever he's going.
Okay.
But I think he went to the Winslow's house.
Well, yeah.
Wanted to see Jane.
Yeah, because I talked to Scarlett and she was like, we were discussing this, and she was like, he's not powerful. He's just being promoted, and Winslow is like the highest.
Yeah,
thing
it's
that
like bold of him to go there.
Yeah.
And Nick just calls him up and is like, "Hey, we're the Waterford.
Call on you."
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it makes sense since he was in their household.
Yeah.
Like that if he was in town, he would want to, like, they might want him to be part of everything.
Pretty thin excuse though.
It's a thin excuse.
I'm proud of him for going for it. So Fred says, "I thought you were on your way to the front," and Nick replies he should be getting his orders any day. And then Fred has a fun idea. Nick can stand in for him just for the shot. LOL. When he stands next to June, he says, "Nice girl like you in a place like this," and she tries to cover her laugh, which is a line from the book. And then he touches her fingers, which is their thing that I love so much. And doing it in front of all these people and the camera is hilarious, but I love it so much. And also, Serena had to have heard his joke.
Yeah, I know. I had the same thought. Like, she was standing right there, so she clearly heard him say that.
Oh yeah.
Their smiles and like laughs, their whole reaction in this like 10 seconds together is adorable. I think.
Yeah.
So happy to see each other and not hiding it at all.
Yeah. Serena surely has to notice all this, because she's like, afterwards she's fingering on her ring, on her wedding ring, and I was like, is she like thinking, okay, that's how love's supposed to be, right?
And she was fuming when Nick came in.
Yeah.
I mean, with she, I mean Serena. She was really,
yeah.
It was like steam coming out of her nose.
I love how Fred keeps trying to like be a bitch about things with Nick, and like have it like goes down over there, like he thinks it's gonna be like
bad.
I don't know,
mess with them.
I mean, it's like, no, actually, this is great because we get to like touch fingers for 3
Yeah,
seconds, which is like what we live for. So thanks, Fred. And that keeps happening. Like every time he tries to like kind of fuck them over, like it'll be like, oh, this kind of sucks. Oh, but actually now it means that we can do something to you, or we get to hang out.
Yeah. That's so true.
I loved how June is like, she's closing her eyes, and then after they touch, it's like she takes a deep breath, like she hasn't breathed at all ever since he left. And ever since she has to be there, and now he's there, and it feels all a bit lighter, I guess.
One more thing I noticed was when Fred walks up to Nick and says, "Thank you, son." And when Nick walks away, that June has her head like leaning towards Nick, and as soon as Fred steps up, her head straightens up, so she looks straight ahead.
I didn't
know
that.
A little thing I'll
go rewatch.
I caught on rewind today.
Yeah, and Nick doesn't walk away right away when Fred comes to them.
Yeah, I love that. That brief pause.
He's like, "What are you going to do?"
I'm
like, he's already feeling like he's going to be a dead man soon. So whatever.
And then he stays too as they make their stupid video with the angels' wings behind them. And June looks completely pissed off as she kneels. I don't think anyone in Canada or anywhere in the world is going to be fooled by that video.
No.
The way she takes her skirt and punches it literally in front of her.
It's great.
I'm surprised that she doesn't get like in trouble for that, like
Then we're back at the Winslows with their 5,000 children, and June sits next to Serena and begs her, "Serena, I know you don't want this. Please talk to me." Lizzie's such a good actress.
Yes.
And I feel like we don't say it much because it's just a given now, and we take it for granted. But like every scene is, especially this episode, the one with Serena later too.
Yeah. Isn't the "please talk to me" like the same thing she says in 108 too? I had that thought. Yeah. Like where she's talking to Nick and she says it. It just feels like it's just very genuine the way she says it to both of them. Like she just really wants to like just be real people and have a conversation for a second, which obviously Serena's not going to do.
But it was a wrong moment, I think, because Serena is sitting there looking at those children, and she's like half high from
Yeah.
looking at the kids. So it's not the best moment, I think, to talk to her about this.
Yeah, but she's got to seize her moments when she can. I get what you're
definitely,
saying. Like it wasn't good, but.
And then Serena does tear up, but says, we can talk if you like, but you have to understand that seeing her changed everything for me, which is so fucked up because June did that for her.
Yeah.
And June points out seeing her changed you, but it didn't change this place. And you know she deserves better. Our girl deserves better. And I know you know that. And then Serena looks at the Winslow kids and they seem happy here. And she said, have you seen their handmaid? But then Fred comes in and breaks up the party. It says that they've got movement. The Canadians have asked the Swiss to interview the household and act as a neutral party. And June looks furious and begs Serena as she passes, but Serena just keeps walking. And Fred tells her to put on a clean dress. Like, what the fuck? God,
I know.
I know.
Fred was coming in and immediately clocked that they both were sitting together and talking. And he knows that June tries to get through to Serena again. And June notices him coming and immediately gets up and tries to be not suspicious, like, I didn't do anything.
Yeah, she walks like around the other side of that column or whatever between them. Yeah, I noticed that too.
And then she's like doing it openly in front of him to get through to her. And he's like, he doesn't want to say it openly in front of everyone, but the clean dress thing is like a fuck you, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Because he is really pissed at her that she continues to talk to Serena about it and tries to persuade it to help her. Yeah.
I also thought it was weird, like this was where I started questioning the household thing, because he says the Swiss want to talk to the whole household, and then when they go, Rita goes, and it kind of seems like they were going to talk to her. And so why would Nick not have been there anyway?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That makes sense.
Since he was there when Nicole was kidnapped, do you think they'd want to talk to him anyway?
I can't believe Serena. Like I know that like it doesn't need to be repeated, but it's just like any like parent knows that like you sacrifice your own like happiness for like the well-being of your child, and like she's just so selfish. I hate it. Like
it's awful. I can't imagine loving someone so little that you would bring them back into that, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Especially a girl,
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what, obviously, but like
I don't know, she just has this like, I think seeing the kids, obviously, like she has this like fantasy of what it's going to be like if she got Nicole back, but like it's going to be nothing like that fantasy.
Then they pull up to a government building full of Gilead flags and armed vehicles, and we get a shot of June's red umbrella amid a sea of black umbrellas, which reminded me of Shining Girls. And the Swiss are walking the Waterfords out after their interview inside, and the Swiss guy says he wants to speak to June alone, and Fred protests, that's not our way, or that wouldn't be appropriate, and the Swiss guy sticks to his guns as long as June has no objection, and she's like fucking delighted as she hears this. None at all, she says. And Serena comes over to threaten her, don't be stupid. And Rita's like nervously twisting her gloves also at the same time. And June takes control immediately in the room, asks the extras in the room to leave. Were they from Gilead or just extra people?
I thought they were press for some reason, but I don't know how that makes any sense. Like Gilead press, I don't know.
I was thinking maybe they were Canadian representatives.
That's what I was wondering.
Maybe,
right?
Maybe.
Yeah. Or American, probably Canadian though, right?
Yeah. And when they leave, she says, I'm the child's mother and I want Nicole to stay in Canada. I don't expect you to feel sorry for me or to promise you're going to change things. I just need to keep Nicole there. And the Swiss lady says the situation is complicated. And June's like, Commander Waterford's not her father. And they confirm that they heard that from the audio cassette. And June looks relieved that that got there. And she says, so she can stay there then, if that's what both her parents want. And they're like, Gilead's a powerful country. And June's like, all right, what do you need to keep her there? And they're like, well, we have a big like hole in information. And she offers to bring them Nick. And then I enjoyed when one of the Swiss ladies asks if they're still in a relationship. And June says, it's complicated. Which that woman had said earlier.
Yeah, callback.
Yeah, and I mean, it shows that they really do not completely understand how Gilead works.
Right.
That she assumes that they have or something called a relationship.
Yeah. We text all the time.
Right.
We meet for a smoke outside.
Yeah.
They claim they can't promise anything, but June pushes them and they agree. If she brings them Nick, they have a deal. They'll keep Nicole there. And she walks out of there like looking triumphant. And I just want to make a note here that the Swiss already knew Nick's last name. They know who he is. She didn't say it on the cassette to Luke. So they did the research on Nick already.
Mhm.
They know he's
Right.
Nick Blaine. And therefore, what happens later makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, I have like 10 comments on that when we get to it.
Yeah.
I also love how when June walks out, she looks like so happy because she knows that she can get him to talk to them. Like, it's just like, well, that's done now. Like, it's not like, well, let's go see how this works. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
it's going to be, she'll be able to talk him into it. It's fine.
Yeah. So now Winslow and Fred are flirting over some pool, like literally flirting.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it's not pool. It's not pool. That's
Oh, what
snooker.
is it?
What?
Snooker, okay.
It's what?
There's a difference.
Snooker.
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 Oh, I've never heard that term before.
Really?
That shot of Winslow like leaning over Fred when his daughter walks,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
just like
Pull
hold that
back.
position for like
This
10
shot,
minutes.
this shot
So
wins
good.
this episode. Really?
Yes, 100%.
Do you think that he was like legitimately trying to come on to him? Or
I think so.
I think
Oh,
he's
yeah.
very powerful.
And I wish it had gone somewhere. I wish
I
there had been
know,
more.
right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was just an interesting twist they threw in.
Yeah.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the little girl runs in and he doesn't even like pull back or
Yeah.
straighten up or anything. Like, oh,
He's not even just touching his shoulder. He's like massaging it,
caressing
basically.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
like okay, what? And Fred is like really wary about it in the first place, and then he gets so many compliments of Winslow,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I think that was like, all right, if I get more power, maybe I can play the game.
I think he was okay with it because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the girl runs in and he lifts her up. He seems like a good dad. You know, I mean, of stolen children. Yes, you can't be a good dad if you stole the children, but he likes the kids. And she invites them for a tea party and they're excited to accept. Fred remains behind for a few moments. I don't know, trying to process what just happened. And then follows them into the kid room. And Mrs. Winslow calls them then oversized children and then tells Serena, this is a bit taboo, but I loved your book. You saved me. You should have seen us before. Me at a corporate law firm, George at another, no time for a family. And Serena says, you have a beautiful family now. Fred comes over, he's playing tea party, and Serena looks at him with love for like the first time, I don't know, maybe ever, post Gilead anyway, which would be like sweet if it weren't the complete opposite and completely revolting to me.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, I just remember that Fred was like, when they were still playing the game, Fred was saying that there was the power of prayer, and Winslow corrects him and is like, no, the presentation of power was the thing that brought the Swiss to the table, not the power of prayer. He's like showing him it's not really about religion.
Then June's laying in bed and the Winslow Martha comes in and whispers, someone's here outside. And June's happy and I'm happy. And she runs outside and the scene is so beautiful in the snow with her red cloak and his black. And she runs to him and they waste no time. Immediately they're kissing. And this is the only actual kiss we see in season 3.
I love that she goes out in just her nightdress and her like cloak. Like she's just like very quickly like, I gotta get out there.
Yeah.
She's so casual and sweet. I do think this kiss is so good, and like every time I see it, I think it's like better than I did before because I feel like I just noticed more details about it, and it just seems really sweet. And obviously, like the like aesthetic of it is beautiful with the snow and everything. So
yeah, so she runs to him and they waste no time. Immediately they're kissing, and then he starts going in for her neck. And when she doesn't respond in kind, which she always does, he picks up on it and he says, what? She tells him about the deal that she made, and he's upset. And he says, they don't care about us. They're politicians. They have their own agenda. And she says, so do I. And then he says, you get in bed with the government. It's not so easy to get out, as if he has experience with this. And she appeals to the fact that this is his one chance to be a father to our daughter. How many of those do you think you're going to get? Which nobody could say no to. And it's so sad, but wins him over immediately, which, you know, it would. And she says, it's tomorrow morning. And he nods and says, okay, and cradles the back of her head.
It's a stark contrast to the last meeting when they thought it was the last time, when she was angry and he was like embarrassed. And now they are both just totally over the moon that
Yeah.
he's there. And I love that they had a callback to the what moment, because June had did the same thing with Nick when he came back after delivering the letters to Luke. And she starts to get more into it and want to be more kissing and everything, and he doesn't really respond, and she's like immediately noticing it and says what, and now it's exactly the same turn around.
I did have a note about the fact that this is the first time that they've referred to Holly as Nicole in private.
Yeah.
And it's really weird to me because I'm just like, when did they discuss that? When was it like a thing?
Yeah, I don't like that. I think that they would always call her Holly. But
they would call her Holly in private, right? Like, I feel like that would make sense.
It's safer too. It's safer,
especially now that Serena like fucked them over. Like they're, you know.
Yeah. Right. And I love that he says they don't give a shit about us, talking about them as a team, as a couple, as whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Then the you get embedded with the government is a whole different chapter we are slowly opening.
Yeah. When he says that, I felt like it was really interesting this time. Like, I don't know that I've ever really thought about this before, but the way June like takes his face and then he kind of like bows his head down and they like touch foreheads and stuff. Like, it seemed like I would believe if there was more going on there, like if she knew what was going on and like it was more than just like she wanted his help in that moment, but she might have like really known what he meant and was like giving him like some kind of like comfort, like forgiveness gesture-y. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but something is off with the fact that she reacts differently later.
Yeah, definitely, that's true. But it's all just very mysterious still to me because I'm like, what does she know and what does she not know? You know, like I want to know what she knows.
And what has he done? What is the thing? Is he talking about Gilead? But he's not loyal to Gilead. We see that in everything he does. So
yeah, that's why I'm wondering if she knows something that we don't even know yet in the show. I don't know. That's like very like
I hope
probably
so.
not right.
No,
but I hope so.
I think Serena's conversation though negates the possibility for that. But I hope you're right.
Probably.
I feel like June knows something, but anyways.
I feel like there could be something else going on, but that June doesn't know it. But maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe. No, maybe.
Then we see him in the government building meeting with the Swiss. However, the Swiss lady is then at the Winslows and tells her that they are reneging on their deal. They're recommending discussions continue, and June's understandably furious. Lena, the Swiss lady, says they won't be able to do business with Mr. Blaine. She doesn't think June knows who Nick is or who he was. Their research indicates he is not to be trusted. And June says there's a mistake. I'll talk to him. And Lena says he's left for Chicago. Some people are not to be trusted. And this infuriates me no end because it makes no sense.
I have a theory. So, especially since now I rewatched it. I mean, I rewatched it a few times already because the thing is always bugging me so much. She looks around anxiously the whole time they are talking because Fred and Serena just went by to get her cloak. So they will come back soon and maybe they listen or whatever. And she's looking there every time again and again. And I'm like, even if she had done a deal with Nick, she wouldn't have been able to tell them, to tell June, because the others were listening. It wasn't a possibility. If she spilled the beans there, it would be over right then and there. And the other thing was, if she made a deal with Nick, I mean, we don't know, but if she made a deal with Nick, he probably would not have wanted that June was involved in the whole thing and would have been like, don't tell her, anything else. I don't want her to be having any part of this because it's dangerous and anything. So I don't know.
It's also kind of weird supporting what you're saying. Like when Serena comes in right after that and June mentions Nick and Serena doesn't seem surprised by her randomly mentioning him. Like clearly Serena like heard what they were talking about or knew that Nick was involved somehow in this. Like, I feel like, I don't know, like it's very possible that the Swiss and the Waterford spoke again after they spoke to June, and I don't know, things got twisted.
And then there's the fact that they tell her that she doesn't know who Mr. Blaine is and that he can't be trusted. And I'm like, you knew who he was. You already knew.
That's
right.
Yeah.
Well, and also, why are they working with Fred?
Yeah,
like they know what Fred's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never. Like,
Big hotshot commander. He did the whole crusade thing. We have seen him plot that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. It's got to be power related. It's got to be all of it's power motivated, obviously. Like,
yeah,
it's completely nonsensical otherwise. Like,
yeah. And I do think when Nick walked in, like, first of all, that shot of him walking in where it's like he's fuzzy and then he walks into focus is like such a cool shot. But but that scene, like, he seems so troubled in that scene. Like, I just feel like something is on his mind that we don't get to know about. And I don't know if it's that he is going to have to reveal something to them that's going to be hard for him, or if it's like he's just struggling with the whole having to talk to the Swiss because of what he said about getting in there with the government. Like, I don't know what's on his mind there, but there's like so many different, we need deleted scenes from this episode. Really bad.
Yes.
I felt that Nick was he was afraid as he's gonna be used again. Like he was used by Gilead, he's gonna be used again. It's not about Nicole. He's doing everything for June and for Nicole, but he's there now because of Nicole.
Well, and he knows it's so much more complicated. Like June thinks like, oh, we can just talk to them, but he knows it's not like that. That's not how the government works.
Yeah.
And I feel like Fred is like this little dog barking and sending his videos to the world. I kind of imagine that the Swiss want to keep him doing that and distracting everyone around so that they can, in undercover in a way, get information either from Nick or get contacts from Nick and work with contacts that they have from him. I don't know. So it felt like it was a line that was served to June. I don't think Nick was involved. I think the Swiss wanted to keep Waterford busy with his movies, with his little clips, and believing that there is a possibility that Nicole is going to go back, where actually there is no possibility. They just want to keep them occupied so that they can get information from whomever. So that was my idea.
Sense. I agree too.
Yeah, I like that.
So Serena walks in and June asks her what Nick did before he was a driver, and she says he served Gilead. June asks how, and Serena tells her he was a soldier in the Crusades. We wouldn't be here without him. All this time we spent together, and he never mentioned anything.
She loves that she gets to like lord that over her.
Right. And as soon as you see her do that, you know she's playing it up. Like, you know that whatever she's saying is like trying to drag them apart. Like, she's just like, ooh, I have a thing I can like use to isolate June even more and make her feel like, you know, she has no one she can trust. And yeah,
and the thing is that even if they haven't talked about it, what they probably didn't, because I mean, in the scarce time that they had, they probably didn't talk about any of the shit in their old life. The fact that Nick was a guardian already, I mean, I expected him to be in the war, to have been in the war, because especially since we have seen a guardian come to Canada and talk to Moira, and he said that they were turned into soldiers and were forced to shoot everybody down, and they were forced to hang their people and everything. And it's like they were, and after the war, they were turned into guardians.
I feel like the thing though is that June doesn't know any of that, right? Like, she pretty much got like taken from the woods and put in this position where she doesn't really know what happened. So I think like her shock is more just finding out information about how things worked. And it's like, if she had heard that story that Moira heard and had that perspective, she wouldn't have been shocked by that.
Yeah, sure. But there's one more thing. It's like at the wedding of Nick, the price said something like they are promoting the most valuable guardians that served in the war or something like that. But he mentioned something that they were soldiers in the war.
That's true.
One of the first hints we got that Nick has been in the war. And so, I mean, you can always overlook that. And I get that June probably didn't really think about that because they are not privy to that side. They don't get to hear any of this. So yeah, and I mean, it's now she knows that he had to do stuff, even though he's a good guy, but he had to do probably some shit to survive, right?
Well, and she's being manipulated to feel like she has nothing and she's not going to be like, I think that's a big part of it, is that, you know, whether it's the Swiss or the Serena or whoever, like there's manipulation happening on her, like to keep her in line and stuff.
And I guess like to me, there's probably like a difference to June, like Nick being involved in like Sons of Jacob from the very beginning and like the crusade, like being a maybe believer in Gilead versus, you know, like a guardian that was turned into, you know, or a soldier that was turned into a guardian after the war, if you know what I mean. Like there's a difference, I feel like, in level of, you know, participation in the war, the crusade.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing to me that indicates clearly he was actually not that important, is because he's a driver afterwards. So
Yes,
you
he's
can't
a
tell
driver.
me, you can't tell me that he was that instrumental in the founding of Gilead when everybody else is commanders. He's a driver. And you
Yeah.
can't tell me that there are people you can't work with when you're working with Fred and Serena. I reject all of that. It makes no sense unless he's actually working with the Swiss and they're just lying to June
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
I always dismiss the thing that Serena said with the, we wouldn't be here without him. It's like if people, if a government wins a war, every single soldier was significant to win the war. We wouldn't be here without him because he was one of the soldiers that brought them here. So, but
Right.
Fred was the fucking commander that made that shit happen. So whatever.
Oh, sorry, Serena as well.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
were
Yeah, sure, Serena as well. So we wouldn't be here without her.
Without Serena,
exactly.
yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
All right, so yeah, so then you see Nick on a train to Chicago and everyone's saluting him. The script says here he's sickened by it and the choices that he made to get him here.
You can see it on his face.
Then Lydia's in June's room checking her dress and she can tell June's off. June says she's just tired and Lydia gives her one more thing, the cover for her mouth. And June says, can I ask you a question, Aunt Lydia? Do you really want us all to be silenced? And she's crying and the acting in the scene is insane to me, like both of them.
So incredible.
Yeah, and
I was crying when I watched it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so moving. I get that.
Yeah.
It's my favorite scene between them, I think, ever.
Yeah, the like hug on the bed, it's like
it's so genuine.
It's so genuine, and you're like, Aunt Lydia's a bitch, but like I want her to hug me too right now. Like just the way that they were on the bed there, it was just such a sweet moment. And June like breaking down in her arms and stuff.
Yeah, and she said, and Lydia says, no, I don't. And she's crying, and she sits next to her and hugs her and says, this trip has been tiring. It'll be good to be home. When I get tired, I still try to think of the good I can do in God's world. If I can help just one person, one soul, that's enough. I think of you, dear. Surprising. And then she holds her as June cries, and it is the sweetest, most genuine moment between them in the series, I think. And then she finally gets up to put the thing on, and can she not figure out how to do it, or she doesn't want to do it?
I think it's probably a combination of the two things, because it does seem kind of complicated with the snaps, like but I think it's also just emotionally difficult too.
So Aunt Lydia helps her put it on. I mean, it's horrifying to look at June like this, and she's looking in the mirror and she touches where her mouth used to be, and what a scene, man.
Yeah, totally. The emotional like stuff in this episode is crazy. When June says, can you help me, I like broke down again too. Like I don't know, something about that was just like, oh my gosh, like just her saying that, like wanting help, but then also because Aunt Lydia and her had just had that moment, and it was just like, oh,
it really is beautiful. Oh.
Yeah, their acting is incredible in this scene for sure.
And the cinematography in the rest of this episode is just like completely mind-blowing to me and fucking heartbreaking in our current situation. July 4th is approaching, and I feel like June here. She walks up to the Lincoln Monument, and he's been beheaded, and then you see a teal dress approaching in the background, and June pulls her mouth cover up, and Serena joins her and says, that's nice, the silence. What a bitch. June pulls it down and says, you could return the favor. And I think the next part, I think the next part is funny. Not funny, just like stupid of Serena to think this. She says, this is all going to be over soon, and you're going to go home, and we're going to stay here, and you and I will finally be free of one another. And June tells her, you will never be free of me, never until both of my children are safe. Then they start yelling, and Serena claims she wants Nicole back because she loves her, and June yells, you can't love, you don't know how. You built this whole world so you could have someone, but it didn't work. You're small, you're cruel, and you're empty. You will always be empty. And she's clearly hit Serena like where it hurts, because Serena knows that's all true. And this is tied for my favorite June insults with the string of obscenities she yelled at her in season 1. But this was more effective.
Yeah, this was the best.
Yeah.
I should have let you burn.
Yeah. Yeah, because Serena said, I should have put a ring in your mouth the day we met, and June like claps back perfectly, right? Because she did. She saved her. She should have let her burn.
Yes.
I wrote, what a scene again. I think, like, I really love the scene. The setting, the two of them facing off, like, it's just so good.
Yeah, it's my favorite June Serena scene, I think, in the whole show.
Right after, like, my favorite June Lydia scene. It's pretty cool.
I wanted to point out that I trusted you. She really did. I think she really did. When she gave her the baby, at that moment, she was like, she's really helping. I mean, she gave her the baby. It's like she tried to be good. She tried, but as always, when it comes to her, I want the best for myself is coming back really quickly. But the fact that June really admits that she really trusts her is a big thing, I guess, because they always had that more hate than friendship relationship, even though they had their moments. But that she really had a moment where she fully trusted her is amazing to me, because we had so much shit with her. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of season 2, it really did feel like, I mean, I understand that, because it felt like, I mean, Serena literally let June take Nicole away, Holly away. So it was just, I think that was like the most real moment they've had together.
And now it's ruined forever.
Now it's ruined forever. Yep.
After Serena walks away, June looks up sadly at the headless Lincoln and bows her head against the monument, crying. And the music is fucking perfect. I really think this is the best show on television all around. Like, as depressing as it is, especially now, everything just comes together perfectly. The music, the cinematography, obviously the cast, the camera work, the editing, the costumes. Like, I don't know how they do it. I've never been so impressed by another show.
Yeah.
And then June pulls her mouth muting thing up and walks out, and there's another unbelievably beautiful and heartbreaking shot of all the handmaids in front of the monument, with the Washington monument turned across in the background. And June walks down to join the Waterfords. And you cannot tell me that this picture of them with their muted faces would be good for Gilead's image in the world. But Fred prays, and June's supposed to kneel so that everybody else kneels, but she doesn't do it. Not until he repeats it again. And then he continues, children are a heritage from the Lord. Offspring a reward from him, like arrows in the hands of a warrior, are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame when they contend with their enemies. Hear our prayer. And the final shot is June's face.
Have you guys heard of the quiverful like movement?
No, I was hoping you were going to tell us, because I don't even understand that.
Oh. Well, I watched a documentary on Netflix called Our Father, and it's about this doctor, this fertility doctor that inseminated like hundreds of women with his own sperm.
Oh God.
When he was apparently using sample sperm or like or donor sperm or the father's sperm.
Jesus.
And
this is the X-Files episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
Ah, okay. But yeah, it's like a crazy documentary. Like, and apparently there's this like religious group that like from this verse, like they have this whole like philosophy and of like spreading your seed and like procreating as much as possible. So it was just interesting when he said this verse. I was like, oh my gosh, this ties into this documentary I watched.
And it fits with Winslow's household too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love how like June, the shot of her eye with the cross in it.
Yeah.
And just that whole like moment with her, like Lizzie is so good because you can feel that she's like praying there, but the opposite of what everybody else is praying. Like I just really thought that was interesting. I mean, she does that a lot in the show, obviously, but like it's kind of a bookend actually, because that's the beginning too, right? Where she's seeing them praying and she's praying for the opposite. And then at the end, she's doing the same of this episode.
I felt that the other handmaids that were there probably did the same too, because
I think so.
When June didn't do kneel down at the first time he said it, of George, I think, looks up to her.
Yeah.
And it's like that look, what is she doing? And they are like having her already as this real big symbol of hope and rebellion, I guess. And they, of course, they follow what she's doing. When she kneels down, they did do the same, but I think they all pray that the baby stays out because they want that for each and every single baby.
Yeah. Yeah, you really felt their like connection where they knew what they were thinking there in that moment where they looked at each other.
It's amazing because Fred made this whole scene to get like the attention to him and Serena and to get the baby back. But if you watch it, you feel like it's the first glimpse of they could be an army if they like pull it together. But I mean, it's hard, but it kind of looks like an army.
Yeah, totally. They're like trained to walk like so like perfectly in formation and stuff. So
yes.
Or what's the quote? They shouldn't have given us
uniforms.
Shouldn't give us uniforms if they didn't want us to be an army.
To be an army, yeah. And I think of the quote or what Waterford is saying, that children are a gift from God. So if you believe in God and everything what God is doing and saying, if you do not get the gift of a child, maybe this should tell you something.
Yes.
And this thing shouldn't be, let's go and steal someone else's baby.
Yes.
No.
That's their confusion. They just need that
maybe the problem is me.
It's amazing how Serena is like turning from being a big crying and totally upset with June before, and then June gets out and Serena is like gloating. She's happy that this is happening, and I'm like,
she loves the attention.
She turns around so fast. This is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's a wrap on our spoiler-free analysis. If you're a new watcher, you might not want to stay and listen to any deep dive thoughts we have, which is just talking about the episode in the context of the show to date, which is through season 4. So we will see you on Monday. If you're a longtime watcher, hang out for our deep dive.
So I had one deep dive note, which I feel like everyone had, which was thank you, son. Yep. Was obviously the reference to son in the season 4 finale.
We did it. We referenced the season 4 finale.
I literally like laughed out loud when he said it because I forgot that he called him son in this episode, and I was like, ha.
I know. I love
you say that like 200 times in the season 4 finale. That's great.
The fact that Nick was like being a bit,
he was like subtly like
mocking
obstinate
up against him or something like that. Like, standing his ground a bit, just a bit.
Yeah.
I was gonna say earlier when we were talking about Nick and the Swiss, I feel like Nick must have done something, because whether it was with the Swiss or something like within Gilead, because after this episode is when they like slowed down like the negotiations with Canada about Nicole. So I wonder if he had a part in some way to, maybe he couldn't stop it completely, but maybe he was able to like slow it down. I
really think they made a deal.
I could buy that
because of that.
Yeah.
Well, if it stopped completely, then the Waterfords would have known that Nick helped.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
And in the end, Nicole stayed in Canada. So
that's one of my biggest points. She stays, and they didn't pressure it to get along. And even when they interview Emily, she's like totally apologetic and is like, I have to do this, but I know it's all right for me. I know you had to do this shit. Like, that's how it came across.
Yeah.
And she's not digging for really dirt here. She just wants to have the facts, and she knows that's basically not relevant. It sounded like that.
You mean when she gets interviewed by the Swiss?
For this. Yeah.
Okay.
And I know that it comes up later that Winslow is stalling it too a bit to have more room for negotiations, right? But I think it's not only just him, because Fred, up until this point, tries to really get to Nicole still, because Serena wants it, and I think he wants to have a settled household again. I think that's one of his priorities here, not the baby per se, but to have the image back. and but they still don't give Nicole back, and they never even come to look or anything. So
Mhm.
I think that's one of the things that made me think that Nick did something. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and I kind of wondered if I mean, this is like total speculation, but if the like not to be trusted thing was more about his like level of
Yeah.
spyness. Like, what is he up to? Like, he might be like, double, triple agenting it, and like they just don't know what his real deal is at this point because of that. I don't know. It's just something I thought about.
So I did when I was looking up the verse from earlier to see if it was in the Bible, I was like, oh, what's like the reference to Gilead in the Bible? So Gilead is from the Old Testament, and it was a very peaceful, fertile place in Palestine. But then later in the Bible, Gilead is later referred to as a city of evildoers stained with footprints of blood.
Oh.
I thought that was,
well, that's quite fitting.
yeah, I was like, I'm sure Margaret Atwood did her research, but I was like, oh, this is
Yes.
super
Yeah.
interesting. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. How have we not thought of
Yeah, I know. I was like, did we cover this before? But
oh, I'm glad you did that. That's very fitting.
I have a thing with Lawrence saying the thing that's their daughter, and she's like, don't say that, please don't say that. And he's thinking about it, and then he just doesn't mention it anymore. But I think he refers to her ever since that moment. He says your daughter, because I think it comes back, and he truly says your daughter, because he takes it to heart.
That's nice.
He is feeling for her.
It's like when Nick said, "Don't call me that," and I'm sorry, when June said, "Don't call me that," and he can like no longer physically say the word Offred.
I had like one more note. This episode is the last time that June and Nick see each other until season 4, episode 2, when he's capturing her. Like, what do you think? Like, I mean, because so much time has passed, and like, I'm probably not going to articulate myself well, but like, do you think when June saw Nick, like, do you think she was thinking about like what Serena told her and like that situation, or like what do you think she was feeling like in that moment, I guess, when he captured her? Like, I don't know.
I think that and the 403, like, they're only moments together between the bridge, which obviously they're cool at that point.
Yeah.
And this is the end of 402, where it's like seconds that they have, and he says one real thing to her, which is I'm trying to keep you alive.
Yeah.
And then 403 in the van, where he can't really be open with her because they're being listened to and everything. So I feel like, yeah, to me, when I saw the bridge scene the first time, I expected her to be mad.
Yeah.
And I was so happy that she wasn't.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this just like shows how strong their connection is and how much she really does trust him. And it's like, as soon as she like sees him and understands everything, then it's like, we don't need to talk about all of that because we're just going to waste time. Like, I know you, and I know I can trust you, and I love you. And that's like the core of their relationship. Like, no matter what you've done, like, I know who you are. And I just love that. So I don't know, like, maybe what she was thinking about in 402, like maybe she was a little bit hesitant and trying to like figure out what's going on.
Probably before he said what he said and touched her, like the way he like touched her shoulder, I think got through to her because they connect through touch so much.
Yeah, and it shows that she trusted him there as well already.
Right.
Totally.
You're always trying to save my life, so I trust that there's a reason you're doing this.
Yeah, I think that she knows that what Serena was doing, that she was being manipulated. I think she knows that.
I think over time.
I think that in the moment it was hard to know that, but exactly. Over time, she sits with it and realizes, like, okay, this is what was really happening. I know him. Serena's a bitch. Like, I can't trust her, but I can trust Nick, and I love him.
I talked about this with Scarlett again today because we were going through the episode a bit, and she reminded me of something that I haven't thought about in the capture scene, that June didn't even know if he was alive. And so seeing him, it was like totally jarring for her, because she didn't really think about if he was even still alive. And then he came and he is the one arresting her. And she remembers everything that has been said about him. And then there's the fact that she was suicidal and she was thinking she was going down for that. She was prepared to shoot everybody who's coming out of that house down. And then it was him, and she stalled. And when he bent down, she really showed that she was trusting him. And you could see it on her face that there was a change.
Yeah. And I also think of his opening line as when he gets out of the house, where are the handmaids? So he's kind of, in a way, telling her that they are not there. So he's giving her information. She was worried that they were captured or dead. So she probably didn't realize it at the moment. But then when she had the moment, because it was all very stressful, but when she had the moment, she probably realized that this is also what Nick does. So he tries to give her as much information as possible without, you know, revealing himself to others.
And it's still her decision. He doesn't push her in any direction. He gives her every information she needs, and then he's like, "You have to choose. It's your decision." And he does that in every episode, basically. Yeah, but in first,
I love that. I love that he doesn't kick the gun away. He just taps her shoulder and says, "I'm trying to keep you alive."
He even turns around and, you know, exposes his back, so she has the opportunity to just, you know, pick the gun up and shot him and shoot him.
Yeah, not gonna lie, during like the first few seconds of that scene, like my stomach just dropped. Like I knew that I think there was a teaser of him saying, "Where are the handmaids?" But like I didn't know what they were going to do with his character. And like when they had him come out, I was like, "Oh my god, no, please don't make him bad." And then like a few seconds later, he said, "I'm trying to keep you alive."
But yeah, it is interesting that they don't see each other again from now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I get it. It was important for her character to evolve. And it was really important that she saw that good people had to do bad shit to survive, because that pushed her to do bad shit to survive.
It's interesting how much she changes when he next sees her. And
that's true.
Oh, yeah.
I have two other points, quick ones. He said they are politicians. They have their own agenda. And then you flash forward to season 4, where June noticed that with Tuello.
Yeah, definitely has his own
who showed in the first parts that he was like trying to be all for her and everything. And then once Fred says he's all for turning on Gilead, he's like flipping a switch, and Fred goes free and you can fuck off. And then June has her own agenda and pushes it through. So I love that.
I do too. Yeah, that's great.
And the last one was the mouth cover thingy, because you see later on that they try to do that in the Boston area too. At least not the rings, probably. We don't see that, but they start to have the covers. And I love that Lydia was the one saying that she doesn't like to silence them, and showed some compassion here, because I think that showed her first part of the transition that we got to see more of in season 4, when she's definitely furious about June and wants to see her dead, probably, at least for a while, because she was tortured for her escape. But afterwards she's trying to help, I guess, a bit, because with Janine you see her change again. So I think it was the first glimpse of her not really going confirmed with what Gilead wants. Let's see how that turns out in season 5.
Okay, I think that's a wrap on our deep dive into season 3, episode 6. We'll see you guys next week for season 3, episode 7. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
You know, I think about us, the 3 of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's her day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.